Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one too.
Quarter pounder with cheese and France, Mickey. What? Royale with cheese. Yeah, I can totally.
See,
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success? Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And John.
JD here, yo.
Yo? Trying to keep up with the young...
80s, JD, are you? Or?
Yes, as I was explaining to my co-host before the show, my brother sent me the 1980s remix of Gautier's Somebody That I Used to Know, and I think I listened to it 10 times before the show. I liked the song originally, but I think I love this version.
Surprisingly, it sounds a lot like Old Town Road, so...
It does not, in fact, sound like Old Town Road. You don't even know the original song, Old Man O'Grady.
Yes.
I know, but I can joke about it.
It comes from a place of insincerity.
Not knowing about something has never stopped me from talking about it.
Fair enough.
All right, what do we got on the docket for this week? You got, wow, I can't talk tonight. What do we have on the docket for this week? We've got, we got a trailer to talk about, I think. And of course we've got some, an update on the Scorsese Marvel hate and some interesting news out of the, CW, world,
which is continuing to, like, since Marvel is seeding the TV world and moving all their stuff to streaming, CW has decided, well, I guess we'll just take that.
And we have an interesting conversation, a topic I wanted to try to talk about tonight. We'll see if we can be adults and have a good conversation, about the cancel culture. So having said all that, you guys ready to get going?
I suppose.
Don't be so excited, guys. Come on.
This is my level of energy this week. That's about it. Until Halloween, and then I will gain a new level of energy.
So are you ready for Halloween?
Oh yeah. You come to my house. I literally just realized that I have like one small bag of, lollipop, just the regular candy mix, lollipops, Smarties, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
And everything else is full-size bars.
Ah.
So whoever comes to my house is going to be really happy.
Well, good for them. Maybe I'll come to your house. What do you got? Full-size bars of what?
Literally everything. Musketeers, Milky Way, Skittles.
Snickers?
Yeah.
All right, I'll be there.
Reese's peanut butter cups are the truth.
And Starburst for some reason.
For some reason.
I don't think I have peanut butter cups. I might have to add those to the mix.
Blasphemy.
I know, right?
That's all right. Kids just get apples at razor plates from my house, so I mean.
Well,
oh wait, was that out loud?
You collect urban legends?
Yes, I do.
I guess I figured I had to blow out this year because next year I'll be 50 and I'm only allowed to give out Werthers and toothbrushes then.
You could be one of those old people that give out change and
exactly
loose change at that. Yeah. Oh my God, they were always my favorite when I was a kid. Like, really? How about you, JD? What's the son dressing up as?
He was Ghostbusters. We went trick-or-treating at the zoo this week. They did Boo at the zoo, and it's supposed to snow here in Chicago on Thursday.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so it was a nice day Sunday, so we took him to the zoo, and he got to dress up. My mother-in-law and my wife did a great job building his costume for him, and the proton pack lit up. They stitched the patches on. He looked awesome.
Does the proton pack actually work?
It lights up.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't actually have a nuclear reactor on his back.
Ah, well, what's the point?
That does remind me that the new Ghostbusters movie is coming out next year.
Yeah.
Written by Dan Aykroyd.
Directed by Jason Reitman.
Yep. And Paul Rudd, Annie Potts, and Bill Murray are going to be in it.
Seems like we've talked about this before.
I know, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? It sounds really, really familiar. But Sigourney Weaver is also apparently part of the cast. So Ernie Hudson, they've gotten the band back together again.
Sounds interesting.
It does.
I want to hold off talking about it until we see a trailer, though, because who knows at this point.
Oh, I get it.
So my Halloween, we had a party at my mother-in-law's yesterday, and so are either of you familiar with the movie Gnome Alone?
Oh my God, I hope not.
No.
Well, I would think JD's son is young enough where he may have seen it.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't watch full movies yet. He doesn't have the attention span.
Oh, I have seen that. I saw it because my nephew was watching it. He's 5.
There's like a portal and the gnomes are alive in the house and the little alien creatures come through.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that my daughter puts on in the background once in a while, and my granddaughters will just stop and stare at it.
Well, it's got lots of flashy colors, and
they love that movie. So
yeah. It's a good movie as long as you're not prone to seizures.
So initially they were going to dress them up as gnomes, but she made them the little purple monsters from the movie. It was so cute. So yes, that's my granddaughters are purple monsters.
Mine's a blonde mon. My son's a blonde monster.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're all monsters that, when they're little.
It could have been worse. It could have been Sherlock Gnomes.
No, I don't know if that's worse or not.
Isn't that a thing?
Huh?
That should be a thing.
That is a thing. Sherlock Gnomes.
Oh, good. I'm happy.
It was the most horrible of the horrible, the most horrible of with all the gnome movies that had come out.
I was going to say first
Romeo and Juliet or something like that.
There was Romeo and Juliet, Sherlock Gnomes, and Gnome Alone. You got to know these things, JD. Come on.
Yeah.
You're slipping in your gnome knowledge.
My gnome knowledge went dead after David the Gnome.
David the Gnome.
See, all my my millennials are like, yeah, David the Gnome. Yeah, Tom Bosley, I believe was the guy.
Oh, yes.
He was the voice of the Dad on Happy Days. He did a cartoon on Nickelodeon in the 80s.
It sounds like a ripoff of Elf, but
it was in the 80s, so
yeah.
It's still a ripoff of Elf.
I never really watched it, but I remember flipping past it and just going, "Isn't that Mr. Cunningham?"
Yes. I know him from David the Gnome. Like, yeah.
Boy, we are really like way off the reservation already.
That's okay.
That's our job.
I'm about to stare further off the reservation later, but continue.
Oh, sweet. At least when you do it, it's interesting.
Oh, good. Then I'll take over. Rorschach, hero, villain.
Rorschach, hero or villain?
That's a tough one because he was supposedly kind of a white supremacist too. Like,
so are you paying attention to the new HBO show? I'm not, but I'm just reading the
No, I haven't watched it yet. I want to.
But they're hinting at stuff, and they were hinting at stuff that was actually in the original comic that a lot of people didn't notice.
Well, it's like I just had a debate with a friend of mine who I'm not going to throw under the bus on the podcast, but we were discussing whether he's like Rorschach's the hero of the story. I'm like, no, he's not. Even Alan Moore doesn't think he's a hero. Like, that's the whole point of Watchmen is it's like the most modernist take on superheroes where there are no heroes. No one's a hero.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's his drive that pushes the story forward, but I wouldn't call him a hero.
He's a protagonist.
Well, he's not really, I don't even know if he's a protagonist. He's more like just a lever to make the story. I don't know, what would you call him if he's not?
He's obsessed with solving the mystery.
I think like point of view character would be like, because it's almost like Game of Thrones where you have like the various characters that we live through.
Right.
And we get the story through their eyes. This is their point of view. So I'd say point of view character, but definitely an anti-hero. And people are like, oh, Watchmen, like Rorschach was the hero, or my favorite was Watchmen isn't political. The comic wasn't political. Yeah.
Where do you get that?
That's all over Twitter today, the last couple of days. There was no politics. Alan Moore put no politics in a 1980s comic book.
No, it was all political. That was kind of the point of the story is, what would the world be like if we had superheroes and how we would use them as superpowers. We would use them in our government.
Yes, that's literally, and it's the modernist take on superheroes. No one's a hero. Everything is wrong. Like, I actually had this debate. I'm like, if Alan Moore was a little bit more close to the vest on stuff, I'd be like, well, maybe you could debate. But I mean, he came out and said Rorschach's not a hero, and he even said people who tell me Rorschach is their hero, I want to stay clear from.
This is true.
Yeah, he's not playing with a full deck.
No.
And in the comic, if I remember correctly, and I must have caught the flack from whatever this Twitter argument is, because it crossed my desk maybe a week ago, and I saw mention that in the comic, there were hints that he was a white supremacist. There were at one point he was reading a magazine called Frontline in the comic, which was some kind of white supremacist propaganda or something. He was not a good person. No. And they hinted at darker stuff. They never really came out and said anything, but
he speaks a lot, and a lot of his narration is heavily cloaked in a lot of the extreme, he's an extreme version of the Question, Ditko specifically, Question and Mr. A. He's that type of a mindset, really notched up. And he's speaking in a lot of the colloquialisms like welfare queens and
dog whistles.
Dog whistles, there you go. That's the term for it. He does a lot of that, and if you don't know how to read it, I can see it. And if you just read superheroes for the punching and the kicking, or you're Zack Snyder and didn't get it either, I get how you would think Rorschach could be the hero, but he ain't. There is no hero. I don't know. So it's just an interesting debate that erupted, and I just thought I'd express my opinions here.
Well, no, it's important. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, Alan Moore's opinion usually is kind of you kind of steer clear of that too these days. But all the evidence is there in the book itself. So, if you can't judge a man by his actions,
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so,
I think there's a thin definition of what's important here, but. Wow. Okay. Let's get us back on course a little bit. And let's,
I'm done.
Let's do a little social media madness. So here's a story. Something we talked about that got a lot of reaction that I was kind of shocked by. So we talked about Jared Leto and, him not wanting the Joker movie to be made. And, I included a bunch of things, but I didn't include everything.
So we got a lot of flack for that, or people are.
Well, so there's Jennifer, who's at Glitter Leto.
Oh, that's going to be an unbiased source.
Yeah, I know. So I think Jarrett for sure should have had this role in the new Joker movie. He is the real Joker, and there's no one other to me fit for the Joker.
Are you serious?
I'm not even going to see that new Joker movie because Jared should have that role. No one else but Jared is Mr. J.
So not everybody's opinion is actually equal.
Well, we don't get this a lot. I'm kind of glad to bring this up right now. This is what we call a Stan account. This is an account that's created just to be an insane fan. Yes. I believe it's even a picture of Margot Robbie in her avatar. I could be wrong though. This is you see this a lot in with the wrestling circles that I kind of frequent on Twitter, where people's entire persona online is based on supporting a thing. Yes. Oftentimes something they're a fan of, and they're freaking nuts, and it's all they talk about day and night. Like, and here's an example. The real crazy part is this person has 2,400 followers on Twitter, which is 1,000 more than me, and it pisses me off.
You're just creating.
And they probably get press passes to New York Comic Con too.
No, I doubt that. These people don't do those kind of things. They're just crazy fans.
You'd be surprised, but because anyway, they're. I don't know. It's shock culture. All they do is say something to shock people, and once they get the argument started, they're guaranteed to get an audience.
No. That's not shock. That's just a super fan. That would be like, that'd be like someone creating a Twitter account that, superheroes speak forever, and like would just always tweet about us and how wonderful we are.
Right.
So it won't get somebody like, let's see, maybe JD to like reply back and say, "Are you nuts?" And of course,
dude, no, do not go to war with Stan accounts. Don't do it. They will make your life miserable. But like I can say this. Well, I can say this in the show because you don't listen to the show. So, like, this person is just replying. In fact, I bet did they even follow us? I doubt it. I bet they just
probably auto-follow
vanities. Well, no, they might probably just like vanity search this topic so they can talk.
Yeah.
No, do you guys know?
They don't follow us.
Do you know why they call them Stan accounts? STAN?
I assume it has nothing to do with Stan Lee.
No, nothing whatsoever.
No. Afghanistan?
No. Oh, good. I get to be the young guy in the show. When I was in college, there was a music video from a performer named Eminem called Stan.
I know. Okay, we know who Eminem is.
I'm also having fun with you guys. But the song Stan was about an obsessed fan.
Okay.
That beats his girlfriend and eventually kills himself.
I know that one.
Yes, it was. It also made Dido famous at the same time. So it was a big song. And for some reason, in the last 2 years, the idea of, because the 2000s are becoming retro for some reason, and that song has inspired this the label of Stan. Like if you're a crazy fan, you're not just a fan, you're a stan. And it's also much like the F word can be used as both noun, verb, and adjective. Like you can say, we stand for this, or she stands that, or I stand, you both stand and you are a stan. So it's actually quite a flexible word.
Right.
There's very few things that make me feel old, but that kind of thing, I mean,
it
really?
Makes me feel, yeah, that's the thing, man.
So, L.W. Fluis, or S.R. Weaver, said, makes you wonder about the real reasons for the public outcry about the Joker.
What public outcry is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Some people say stuff, and I wonder what they're drinking.
I've seen, it was Flavor Aid, by the way. It wasn't Kool-Aid. Jim Jones didn't spend that kind of money. I haven't seen it yet, clearly, but I've seen 2 Joker hot takes. Overrated and the most amazing film ever.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen. I mean, I've seen that was you were in the overrated camp.
Yeah.
And I've seen people go, "Oh my God, it's genius." And it's usually people that read comics are like, "Eh."
I was gonna say, I wouldn't, and I don't even know if overrated is really the right thing. It's more like it just doesn't work as a Joker movie, but it works as a movie in some respects.
It worked when it was called Falling Down.
Yes, exactly. Okay, then we also had Kevin Glennon say, "Nah, he'd blow it after makeup tests." Oh, wait a minute. So this must have been replying to someone else. He'd blow it after makeup tests. He just didn't understand the character. All the bad things Nicholson thought of doing, but was talked out of, mixed with none of the good things Ledger did. Suicide Squad master video files needed to be deleted.
Yeah.
He said Suicide Squad was the Phantom Menace of the Batman series.
Yeah.
And I think that's a comparison we can get behind.
Yeah, I like that. Nice use of gift too, by the way, Dave.
Yes. And then Michael Heitkemper said, I actually just watched Suicide Squad for the first time last night with my son, and we both agree that Leto did not understand the character at all. But in my opinion, that's just the tip of the iceberg with what's wrong with that movie.
This guy wins social media madness this week. Michael Heitkemper, you're next invited on the show. That's just how it works, I guess.
Well, then, speaking of people that have been on the show, a good friend, Timothy Jones, said, I heard he was just joking.
I think I can't tell if he's being serious, but he's got a capital J in joking, and that is like he's either just like straight up, or that is like one of the most sublime Twitter jokes I've ever seen.
I think he is trying to be funny because he is a cartoonist. He's been on our show, so
with the capital J, that's what makes me.
Yes,
I like it.
There we go.
It's good.
And then D Square, House of D, said he was right to fear this. So he did have a point. Okay.
There's a lot in that. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack in that one sentence. I don't think it's right to try to use your agents to torpedo someone else's career.
Right.
That being said, yeah, I can't crap talk a movie I haven't seen, but
no.
There's a reason I haven't seen it.
And then,
so basically you are. So basically you are on a movie you haven't seen, but with reason.
Yeah. I mean, like, if a movie doesn't speak, I mean, like, because again, we've been talking about this movie since it was announced 2 years ago, right? And I was the one who was leading the charge of being like, yeah, man, I can't wait to see it. Give it a chance. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Right up to the very end, when like the more stuff that came out about it, the less I wanted to see it. So.
Yeah, I feel like I was the one that was like, no, this is going to be a bad movie, and you were the one that was like, oh, let's go see it, and I'm the one that saw it, and you didn't.
Mm-hmm. I'm a hypocrite.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Then the other thing that we talked about, of course, we announced that Paul Dano was cast as the Riddler. And then we just got a couple quick tweets on this. Kevin Glennon again said, I love this casting, but it's all going to come down to the director here, as Dano could get too campy too quickly. The Riddler has to be played like a genius, not like Mr. Bean. That's a fair point. And then Wretched Ghost Story. I would imagine that's a holiday thing. What?
Have we talked to Kevin Glennon? Have we interviewed him before? Like, he's actually had some good points this week.
You're right. You might be the next one. So he said, and of course, Wretched Ghost Story said, I've learned not to prejudge. While there have been poor casting choices, the surprise performances more than make up for them. I remember the early grief about casting pretty boy Heath Ledger as the Joker by people who obviously never saw Ned Kelly or Brokeback.
To be fair, I think there was a lot of people that were angry about Heath Ledger playing the Joker because he was in Brokeback.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Chuds, but I mean, like, there were people.
Yeah, I thought by definition chuds were not people, but okay.
All right, so that's all.
That's the joke. That's the joke, John.
That's all the social media madness for this week. Kept it short, so if you guys out there would like to be part of the conversation, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak, or on Instagram at SuperheroSpeak, or like us on Facebook, facebook.com/SuperheroSpeak. And also, don't forget to check out our website, SuperheroSpeak.com, where it has been very busy lately. Of course, we mentioned our good friend D Square. He has been actually writing reviews for the website lately, so we have a bunch of reviews up by him. And we've also got a new partnership with another great podcast, Ghosts in the Stratosphere. And basically, those guys have years of old stuff that they wanted to get back in the public eye, so they've been republishing stuff on our website, and of course we've had a lot of great news still coming in from our contacts that we've made this year at New York Comic Con. So just, you guys need to check it out. There's been at least 3 new articles every day published on the website. So if you're not checking superheroespeak.com, you're probably missing something. Sound good? All right. And of course, while I'm at it, don't forget to check out hashtag the Geek World All-Stars podcast network. That includes us, of course, Pop Prism Power podcast. Man, my mind just went blank. Fans on Patrol, So Wizard podcast. Who am I forgetting, guys? Cult 45 and Gorilla Brain podcast. So again, you can follow all those guys on Twitter, check out those podcasts, and look for the hashtag GW All-Stars. Now, having said all of that, I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
And we're back. You guys are quiet tonight.
Well,
You were on a rampage there.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some news. I feel like we keep talking about the same things over and over again.
Well, there has been. I mean, there's been a lot of news over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it's all been about the same stuff. So,
Well, so Scorsese,
who won't keep his mouth shut.
I don't know if you call this backtracking or he's just clarifying his statements. But basically
just clarifying.
basically came out and said that, the Marvel movies are a new form of entertainment. They're not, cinema. He's still standing behind they're not cinema, but they're a new form of entertainment. And,
what kind of new form would it be? Because we've had blockbusters, I mean, I guess you could classify these all as blockbusters, but we've had those for quite some time now.
I just don't understand, why he would come out and kind of try to smooth it over at this point.
Because I think he realized he sounded like a crabby old man. The kind of people, these are guys, like I said a couple weeks ago, these are the auteurs. These are the maverick filmmakers of the late 60s, 70s that fought against the studio system.
Yeah.
So I think with these guys, they just see it as a rise in the things that they hated. And I think they just see it as a crowding out the smaller films, which there's an argument that could be made about that.
Absolutely.
But again, I'll counter that, if you want to see a smaller film, if you care about that stuff, you're going to get the Criterion channel. You're going to watch those films. Those films have never been more widely available. And quite frankly, those movies don't need to be seen on a movie theater. There's a generation of people that have almost a religious experience going to a cinema.
Right.
And I just don't think that, I do too a little bit, but I like seeing I feel like for a big movie, like an amusement park. So maybe he's not wrong in some of the stuff he's saying. But if I want to see a good, thought-provoking movie, I'm not going to pay $15 to go see it. I'll use it for my Netflix account.
And like you said, the reason that he does have half a point is because, the Marvel movies are something special. I mean, nobody's ever attempted a 10-year arc. Nobody's ever even thought it was possible. Now,
before, the people have tried since failed.
Oh yeah, and they never even got past step one.
Yeah,
but Dark Universe. But for the most part, though, we are in a rut. I mean, we're getting sequel after sequel after. Medea alone is probably culpable for destroying a whole bunch of indie movies that could have taken the place in real theaters.
Ooh, that's a bad example because those movies are independent films. Tyler Perry does his own thing.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry. Okay. Tyler Perry is a studio unto himself.
Okay, Transformers then.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I'll give you Transformers, but at the same time, the cost of going to a movie is so high nowadays that the only movies that I'm even willing to go see are the big ones. Because again, why, if I don't need to be beaten up by surround sound, why can't I just use it as part of my Netflix subscription and watch it at home and enjoy it?
Yeah, but I agree. But the point is that the studios aren't supporting new ideas anymore. They are going with that sacred chart thing, and basically just pumping out the same thing over and over again because they know they'll get a certain amount of money out of it. They can presume and count on it. And so, we would never get, just to name a few, we would probably never get a Star Wars these days because it hasn't been done. Because if it hadn't been done before, they wouldn't do it.
No, you're right. I think at the same time, studios have never been quick. The studios didn't support Star Wars. Lucas financed that thing on his own. I think he leaned his house. He could lean against his house. 20th Century Fox just had a distribution deal with it, which allowed him to, become an empire. But I mean,
would you even get a distribution deal these days, though, with places like Disney saying, "Sorry, you have to show our movies for the first 9 weeks in the largest theaters," right?
But Disney's not just making those kind of movies. They are still making smaller movies or buying them. There's still big film markets. There's still it's a good time to be an independent filmmaker because all these streaming services need content. If you're a content creator, you can make money. Dude, I'm making money writing these Amazon books. Like, if you want content, like, all these channels need stuff. So the way we're distributing stuff has changed. It's a good time to be a filmmaker. You're just not gonna put your movie into the screens, but they never did. Like, Easy Rider didn't play the big cinemas. There was this very small movie that played art house films. And back then, there was only one movie screen to a studio. Like, now, there's more chances than ever because every theater's got at least 10 screens. Now, granted, you could say, well, they're all filled with Marvel movies, because that's what people are going to see.
Right.
Like, when it was Westerns, it was filled with Westerns. When it was, big sci-fi stuff, that's when Star Wars came out. We were bombarded with Zardoz and Dark Star and, like, all kinds of other, attempts to recapture that. So, I mean, this isn't new, and I think it's better than I don't think it's the film experience that they want and that they feel they fought for. But again, it's evolve or die. And if you refuse to fight evolution, or if you try to fight evolution, you're going to get left behind.
Right. And I think you also hit the nail on the head too with the cost, like, if you're going to spend that kind of money to go out, spend an afternoon at the movies and, I mean, I know a lot of people don't get concessions, they sneak stuff in, but still gonna get, what?
I said guilty.
Yeah, exactly. But still, like, even just the cost of the tickets and then, I mean, and I'm sure it's even harder when you have little ones. I mean, I know that it is. Of course, you even said that he's not ready to sit through a whole movie yet. Oh God, I'll never forget when I saw, I think it was the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and right near the end, my son was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I come back and there was the Kraken eating the ship, and I'm like, what happened? How did it get to that point?
And that's the thing, though, is now if you watch that at home, you can hit pause while you take little dude to the bathroom, come back, and you didn't miss nothing.
Exactly.
And TV screens are huge if you want to spend a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's the whole point I was getting at too, is like, in some ways you can recreate the same experience at home. The only thing you can't recreate, and that's why I like seeing the Marvel movies in the theater,
camaraderie
is being surrounded by people who love the same thing.
And I think that's a big part of their argument, is because, like, when you talk about not about a true cinema, that's pretty snobby. When you talk about an independent art house cinema experience, you're going with a bunch of like-minded people.
Right.
Yeah. Like, if you go to the festival movie scene, which I've done that in the past and it wasn't for me, but there's a lot of people there that really enjoy that kind of stuff. But it still exists.
Right.
See, and I don't know about you guys, but, like, for these larger movies like the Marvel stuff, I'll actually go to the theater and be there like 45 minutes early and basically sit, and as people are coming in and, basically conversations start up, and you can have a lot of fun talking to the fans, because you're a fan too, before the movie actually starts.
Oh, screw that noise. I ain't talking to nobody if I'm going to the movies.
He's that lonely old guy in the theater.
I'm not older.
Sonny, how you doing? You here to see the Marvel heroes fight the bad guys?
I remember Spider-Man movies where he had two guys behind the camera and they were throwing a net when he put his hand up.
If the movie starts at 8:40, it's a 20-minute drive to the theater. I look at my clock and it's like 5 to 8, and I'm like, well, I got another 5 minutes because I'll just miss the trailers.
See, I like watching the trailers though, and I like the camaraderie. I mean, I like talking to people when they come to the movie when they're excited like that.
Yeah, I've never done that, so I'll just give that one to you. It has never occurred to me to talk. I don't talk to random people though, like in my normal life. Like, I put my headphones on and keep looking.
All right.
So
you are one of those youngsters. My God, in my day, we didn't have smartphones. You had conversations on a bus.
You had Walkmans.
That was before Walkmans even existed. And even so, most people if they're on a bus, they got a Walkman. Half the time the batteries are dead.
Oh my God.
We didn't have chargers back then.
The Walkman came out in like 1980. How old are you, John? Anyway.
Old enough to remember Marlowe and the Magic Movie Machine. Moving on.
What's that?
We had so we were talking about Disney and blockbuster movies. I think this is the perfect segue to talk about the trailer that came out during Monday Night Football last week. A little known movie I think people should go see, and I think it's going to be called Rise of the Skywalker.
Okay. All the other arguments and stuff aside, I am kind of blasé about this because I don't feel for the characters. I have it. I just like at the end, Return of the Jedi. I went to the theater because I wanted to know what was going to happen to Luke, if they were going to save Han and all this stuff. Here, it's like the storylines have been such a mishmash. I don't have anything to emotionally grab onto except for nostalgia. And while that's a really good hook, for me, that's never been enough.
Dave, cue up Freddie Prinze.
Yeah, how many Stan accounts are going to come after me now?
0. We won't get those guys. Just the one.
Just the one.
I felt if John is Antarctica, I'm going to be like the southern part of Australia, not the total polar opposite, but pretty opposite.
Okay.
I'm very excited about this. I thought it looked great. I thought it looked awesome. They intentionally, no Star Wars trailer has ever given you the slightest hint of what the story is about.
True. I agree. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that even sans trailer, I don't feel for these characters like I did for the originals. I'm trying to take into account the fact that those are the originals, and I have nostalgia for having been one of the people that have seen saw Star Wars in a drive-in when it came out. But it's still, I mean, I don't know if this is like something to do with my generation versus yours or what, but I just don't feel it. I'm stating a fact. I couldn't tell you why.
I get it, and I'm gonna be a little honest. Like Batman '89, growing up was my favorite movie. Like I remember going to see it. My dad took me to see it at the mall theater, and I like counted down the days. I had my special Batman shirt. I talked about it the rest of the summer. Like it changed me. I'm not sitting here if it's not for Batman '89. I've said that, bro. It's not a very good movie.
No, it was okay, but for the day, it was like real Batman in the movie theater.
That's the key,
and no shark repellent. So,
but that's the key though, is it takes you back to an emotion that you had at the time. But I can look back on it, and I don't have to have rose-colored glasses about what the film is. It doesn't change the way I felt about it emotionally.
Right.
That being said, things that aren't meant to speak to you, and that's the truth. Like they're not going to have the same connection to it. So and maybe that's a good thing.
Okay, so
what do you think, Dave? No, seriously, what do you feel about it?
Well, so when I saw the Force Awakens trailer, right? The first Force Awakens trailer, and you're like, what is going on? You can't tell you can't tell a good guy from a bad guy, blah, blah. But at the end of the trailer, you have Han and Chewie standing there on the deck of the Falcon, and he says, we're home, right?
Oh yeah, that was a holy crap moment.
That was, that was waterworks all the way. That was,
Oh yeah.
And I'll admit, when the what was the second movie? The Last Jedi trailers, it was more like, what is going on? Like I didn't get the same feeling other than seeing Luke back. It was like, I didn't have that moment watching the trailer. Now, watching this new trailer for Rise of Skywalker, when C-3PO says, I want to take one last look at my friends.
That is the only one that catches me too.
It's a great line.
And when you hear Carrie Fisher say always at the end of the trailer. If you're not tearing up at those, give me your Star Wars card right now, John, because
I'm with Dave on this one, 100%.
No, those like I said, those moments, okay, I'll grant those moments caught me, especially the C-3PO one. But then in my head, I can't seem to separate it from the fact that C-3PO is saying it to these people that he has known pretty much a lot less time than.
But Chewbacca and R2-D2 are there.
Yeah, but
if he had said
he was looking at what's her name and was it Discount Han? I mean, it's just I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to be a curmudgeon about this. I'm kind of mystified as to why I feel this way too. But it's just it just doesn't catch me.
You don't want to see like how they tie it all together. You're not curious. Like
there's the thing.
How is this the Emperor's plan the entire time?
They can't tie it all together because the storylines have been so all over the place that there was a central thread through the original three. It was Luke and his journey as a Jedi. Here,
Rey and her journey as a Jedi.
But it wasn't. But she didn't have a journey. She just like picked up a lightsaber and had.
Luke blew up the Death Star.
What?
Luke blew up the Death Star. This planet, this giant space planet that can blow up other planets. Luke is the only person. His targeting computer goes down. A voice in his head says, "Use the Force," and he does it. He kills thousands of people in one fell swoop. Like. Yeah. It's the same argument.
No, it's not. Because you felt like he struggled. I mean,
because you were 12.
In the words of Freddie Prinze Jr., you're just mad because they gave the Falcon to a girl. And
no, I'm not.
And
that is not me.
The first movies were for fucking kids. The prequels were for different fucking kids. And these movies are for even other different fucking kids.
Well, then that's the point. Then maybe that's it. Like maybe you have to be, younger to get this. See, but that's the thing. I'm a cartoon watcher, so my inner child is well fed. But I don't.
Hey, Teen Titans Go.
Well, yeah, but that's
that's not because it's not for you. The anime you watch is made for you.
Right.
Like they're not. We got to break out the 18 to 49s. I mean, that's the truth. Like, these are not. But I like them for what they are. But I'm not. I know that the original trilogy is something special to me, but I can see. Maybe it's film classes, maybe it's all these things I went through, but I can see their flaws, and I love it in spite of it.
Yeah. And I get that too.
But I mean, are these three movies as special to me as the original trilogy? No, and it's not supposed to be. I remember 10 years ago, the kids I coached all loved the prequel trilogy, and I thought they were crazy until I got older and figured out that they're for them, and they're wrong. But it's there. It's theirs.
I honestly think the main problem that everyone you have. I actually have another really good friend who hates these new movies as well. Same thing is you want to feel the same way you did when you saw the original trilogy. That's never going to happen again. Never.
Well, no, I get that. Like I said, I'm trying to take that into account. It's like but I still feel like the story because there doesn't seem to be a cohesive plot thread.
See, I honestly think the biggest mistake that J.J. Abrams and Disney made was including the original cast in these movies at all. Because if they made them their own thing completely, there'd be less people arguing about him not being as good as the original movies.
Right. There's a lot of people that wanted to see a bunch of octogenarians doing space battles.
Right. Which that was never going to happen.
No, despite what people have cooked up in their minds, it was never going to be Luke Skywalker comes back. And the idea that Luke Skywalker got old hurts a lot of people because it means you're getting old.
Right.
Well, I also think that along those lines, that what people really wanted to see was, a full-fledged Jedi, in warrior mode. Speaking as, from my anime heart, seeing a Jedi who's really ready to go to battle and seeing a Jedi master in battle would have been awesome. But we never really got that.
We did get that. We absolutely got that. In the prequel trilogy, we got that.
And the whole thing is, going back to the video from last week, you don't level up as a Jedi. The Force decides if you win or lose. End of discussion.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. No. I get it. I don't know why you guys are getting so upset about it. Even I'm not really upset about it, which is kind of the problem, actually. But, I'm just telling you how I feel. I mean, I'm not even sure. The only thing I can tell you for sure is that it's like the last two movies didn't really impress me or did not really move me. So.
And I get that. If you're talking on a pure emotion level, I can't say that either. Like when we had our big review show about Last Jedi, I believe the words I used were it's probably the best made Star Wars movie, but it's not my favorite.
Right.
You know, it's not supposed to be. Like if you're like for me, it's all Return of the Jedi is always going to be my favorite movie, and it's because of my age. I don't have a problem accepting Ewoks. There's that whole bit they had on How I Met Your Mother. There's a lot of truth to that. Right? It's all about that the golden age of science fiction is 12.
Yeah.
You know, it's what speaks to you at a certain point of your life. And I love Star Wars, so I'm going to see this movie and I will probably enjoy it. Will I like it as much as Empire and Jedi? Probably not. I don't anticipate it to. Like, and I don't think I don't think that makes it a bad movie. And the only reason I argue is because you're like, well, there's no cohesive storyline. There is a cohesive storyline. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's a different conversation. But it's there, and it mirrors the original trilogy almost to the T. Like, it's the same thing. Like, because I had that same feeling too. Like, oh, she just becomes a Jedi right away. But it's the same thing. We saw Luke train for like 6 minutes on the Millennium Falcon, and then he's the best pilot in the galaxy.
Well, yeah, but she didn't even train. She just saw somebody do something and said, hey, let me try that. And was automatically, like, controlling people's minds. And
What did Luke do? Luke blew up a freaking Star Destroyer. We never really see him train. He does calisthenics with Yoda. And he has a little ball that shoots lasers at him that he sucks at it for a minute because he's distracted. Like, we don't really see Luke. It's not like Dragon Ball Z where they spend like all this time training and like I said, leveling up. Like, I don't even know what that means, but I think it works here. Like, it's not that type of series. Like, Hercules is awesome because he was born awesome. He just had to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where these stories are drawn from. Gilgamesh was always awesome. He just had to figure it out.
Right.
Like, and it's like the Star Wars stories have never been that Americana Horatio Alger mythos of building yourself up from nothing.
So instead of arguing the merits of them being old or not,
no, but this is fun. No,
I have a question. I have a question in all seriousness.
I have fun with this too.
If you're like, because this can go 1,000 different ways, right? At this point,
1,000 different faces.
You have, but obviously, I mean, what you gather from this, I think, this is what I got. You know, the Emperor is back in some way or another, and this was all part of a master plan that he's had all along to take over the universe. In fact, I've seen some other stuff online. I don't know if you guys want me to spoil it for you or not. But some of the footage they showed at D23 leaked. And, long story short, do you think that by the end of the whole thing, right, the Emperor's going to get destroyed, right? Obviously, the good guys are going to win, right? Because it's not much of a movie if the good guys lose.
Well, it can be. AKA, was it the second one? Return.
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back, yeah.
Yeah, but they're not going to end the saga with the bad guys winning. Jesus. Do you think this is a serious question, okay? Do they bring, because there's rumors that Hayden Christensen makes a cameo in this movie, or is going to come back as a Force Ghost. Because originally there was rumors there was concept art that leaked, and there were rumors he was going to be in The Force Awakens, and they scrapped it at the last minute. Now those rumors are back, saying he is a Force Ghost in this movie. Is he somehow involved with defeating the Emperor again, so he still is the chosen one? Or does Rey and Kylo together defeat the Emperor?
If they bust out, we joked about the proper uses of a Deus Ex Machina many times on the show.
Uh-huh.
If they bust out the ghosts to beat the Emperor, I will be very unsatisfied with that. I hope they don't do that.
Okay.
If the ghosts talk to them and they learn from the elders, I'm okay with that. But it's got to be Rey and or Kylo doing it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because it would be totally. I mean, what's the point if you become a Force Ghost and you can beat everything? Right. Then what's the point of the movies? What's the point of having an actual protagonist?
And
just,
they haven't shown
commit seppuku right off the bat and then go to town on them.
That's a good point. That's actually a really good call. They haven't ever shown the Force Ghost could actually do anything other than, dole out advice.
Well, except for Yoda and his lightning and
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. But did Yoda actually do that, or was he just right place, right time?
Yeah, he could. If he's a Force ghost, he could have known exactly when that would have happened, right?
Yeah, could have. I can make anything up if given enough time.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, that's a good point. I'll have to see. Yeah, no, I agree. And again, that was the point in Jedi too. It is still it's still Vader who throws the Emperor down the pit to bring balance to the Force and be the chosen one. So yeah, no, we'll see.
So will it be Kylo? I mean, there's no argument made that it would be Kylo. I mean, we didn't know what the Emperor is, first of all.
Right.
Like, that part is still so out of left field that I'm curious. But then again, the Emperor in Jedi was pretty much just showed up, so.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you just see the edge of his hood in the trailer, so who knows what's on the other side of that shot. It could be John with like a mask on, helping him breathe and hooked up to machines.
Emperor O'Grady has a nice ring to it.
Well, the mask is for my sleep apnea, so.
Oh, there you go. All right. So I guess, like everyone else, we'll have to wait till the movie comes out. But some people were asking online what we thought of the trailer. So
is good.
Yeah, they got almost a full episode of us. Do we have time for anything else? We still have.
Sure. What the hell?
Oh, why not? Come on.
People like when we go long.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So moving on to some DC news. Oh no. We did have one more Marvel Studio. As predicted, Jeff Loeb is leaving Marvel Television.
There's a surprise.
Dave called it last week.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean.
Take your victory lap, sir.
Okay. Oh man, I need to lose some weight.
This is not what people want to hear on the radio.
Nobody's listening to the radio. We're a podcast.
Well, maybe my wife wants to hear it. Okay, come on.
All right. Whoa. Let's turn around, straighten that, reverse it. So yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody's really surprised with this. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the only thing is
Feige and
the only thing that leaves in up for question is the current cartoons that are running on Disney XD. But like they're pretty much have run their course anyway. So does that mean is everything just going to be Disney Plus going forward? I don't know.
Well, I would assume so.
Yeah.
You would think that they'd leave a few on the network channels and major cable channels just to provide a hook.
They probably will, I assume. But I think the majority of stuff is going to live. They'll probably just like do what they do with the movies, like just take stuff out of the vault, put it on for a bit, and take it away.
Mm.
But I mean, that's like the whole thing with what was it? They introduced a new season of the Clone Wars, and they're not. That's going to be on Disney Plus. They're not putting that on the network channels, and it's like, but it was on Cartoon Network when it was first on. So
different ownership now, different world,
much different world.
Like you gotta bait that hook. And the Clone Wars is a nice little hook.
Yeah,
actually, the whole hook is your childhood. We have your childhood. Come get the hook.
If you want to feel young again, come get us. All right. Yeah. So again, no surprise. We did call it. Jeff, we wish you luck in your next endeavor. If you want to come on the podcast and talk about it, doors always open for you to come in and complain.
I would totally take that episode. Here's a real question. Does he go back to comics?
That is a good question. What is he written? What's the last thing that he wrote?
Nova, I believe.
Which one?
I think he created the new Nova. The Sam Alexander Nova. That's probably like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah. But I mean, how much of that did he actually write too? I think
a few first 4 or 5 issues, I want to say.
That's what I'm saying. Like he kind of brought the character back and then that was it. And I understand because he's been running the Marvel TV stuff, so he's been too busy, but
making real money.
Yeah. Does he go back to Batman?
I would love the same thing.
I would love to see him write another Batman story. I mean, Long Halloween is such a great story.
And Hush is pretty good.
Yep.
Dark Victory's all right.
Yep.
Long Halloween's really good, though. Yeah, I would. You know what I would love to see? I would love to see him and Tim Sale do one more go around.
Yes. Do not do Long Halloween 2 like, the Dark Knight 2 and Master Race.
Yeah, just give us a third story.
Yeah.
Or a fourth, actually, because I guess Haunted Night was their first one.
Right.
I would like to see one more, because it's been I want to say at least 20 years.
Easily.
If not longer. Maybe 25.
Yeah.
I would like to, because Tim Sale still got it. I would love to see them have one more go around together with DC.
All right. We're dropping the gauntlet. Let's see if they'll pick it up. Speaking of DC and comic books and creators and possibly people not being happy, so you're familiar with who Tony Isabella is, correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
Of course.
He's the creator of Black Lightning. He was actually on our show.
And Ghost Rider.
Way back in episode 7. Yes.
Wow.
So, and it was funny too, because we did talk about Black Lightning and his whole reasoning for creating the character was he had, wanted a African American character that had a positive, more of a positive background, because Luke Cage was an ex-con and, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess T'Challa wasn't an American. He was a king from another country. So he wanted an American that had a decent background. So he's very protective of the character. But surprisingly, and I actually saw this before the news outlets started picking it up because we're friends on Facebook. But basically he said that Batman was toxic. The exact quote is, "Here's a tip. Don't ask me to join groups to visit pages that have Batman in their titles. He was once my favorite comic hero. Now I consider him one of the most toxic and ruination of DC Comics. DC hurts their other characters by making Batman the center of their universe."
When you start that quote, can you in post put in Britney Spears is toxic?
And that is the most current John's going to get.
Probably. So harsh, yes.
I don't think he's wrong.
But I don't think he's wrong. Thank you. Yeah.
So I thought this was interesting because I saw that floating around too. When you think about it, okay, we've all read. Have you guys read The Once and Future King?
No.
Oh, okay. It's probably my favorite version of the Arthurian legend. It was written in the 40s.
Okay.
And there's the talk of might makes right versus might for right. And I've always kind of seen that in the lenses of both Batman and Superman. It's like Batman is definitely that might makes right. I'm stronger than you. I can beat you up. That's what's right. Whereas Superman is a little bit like, I can beat you up, but I don't have to. I'm going to do the right thing because it's the right thing, not because I'm going to beat your ass to get it done. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that if you take that interpretation to its fullest, because Batman does have a lot of that, and I think a lot of writers, I don't think now as much as maybe in the 90s, when after Frank Miller, when Batman was just basically a pulp hero again. But I get where he's coming from. I get that Batman stories definitely have a little bit criminals need to be. It's like we talked about with Rorschach earlier. Criminals need to be punished. There is no rehabilitation. And it's easy to get into those extremes with Batman. And to be fair, guys like Tom King and Grant Morrison didn't bring that to their interpretation of Batman.
Right.
But there's a lot of writers that have.
I think the best analogy for what Batman's become is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, where he had machine guns on the Batmobile and was just indiscriminately shooting at people. And it's like, what? No, that shouldn't be Batman, right?
Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, he should have a plan to stop them, but not just shoot them. Or he blew up that device in the other room and everyone died. I don't remember the whole scene when he was saving Martha.
When that scene was playing, all I could hear in the back of my head was the Terminator going, he'll live too. Just He lived barely. So, yeah.
And I also kind of feel like, in some ways, they bring their other characters down to help elevate Batman.
That's a different argument, but I can see where you're coming from on that.
I mean, when Man of Steel came out, one of the things that we discussed is when you start with a darker Superman like that, where do you go with Batman? If you want to,
that's where you go with Batman. Guns, murder,
but
super intense CrossFit.
But he also used you talked about the '89 Batman, right?
Oh, yeah, that one too, huh?
He used guns in those movies.
Absolutely. Because there's a lot of, boy, I'm trying not to get political, but it's going to be hard. We have a gun culture in America where, and I'm not exactly innocent of this too in my own writing, so believe me, I'm not, you call me out as a hypocrite if you want. But I mean, there's definitely a thing where the good guy with the gun, the cowboy is a trope in American folklore storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy for us to get into that. And it's an easy character to create. And people who don't understand Batman, Tim Burton went out of his way to be like, I don't read comics. And you watch his movies, you're like, oh yeah, you don't.
He did it, right.
It's pretty obvious. And I don't think Zack Snyder did either.
No.
I don't think he read Watchmen, and he made a whole movie about it.
Go ahead.
It's obvious it's like the only Batman that Zack Snyder ever read was Frank Miller.
However, in The Dark Knight Returns,
mm-hmm.
There's a scene where he makes a point. He uses a gun with a harpoon to get across the building, and there's the narration in there is him complaining how much he hates guns, that they're the weapons of cowards.
I didn't say he read it carefully.
Right? Like that's the whole point. His parents were killed with a gun.
Right.
They're the weapons of cowards. It's not a thinking man's weapon,
Right. But he does use his fist to bludgeon people.
Well, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the character of Batman.
Right.
And I don't think he's wrong. And I don't think Batman, that version of Batman as the linchpin of the DC universe is a bad thing. I think it does bring I think you're right. It brings the wonderment of the DC universe down, which is why I like Grant Morrison's interpretation of Batman. He really does do the thinking man's high level Batman crazy stories,
Right.
But a lot of guys don't do that. So I mean, there's always been an argument that Batman would fit better in DC or in Marvel than he would in DC, and I think that there's something to that.
Right. I mean, I've come to, before obviously when these characters are created, there was never a thought of them being in an interconnected universe, right? Like Batman was his own thing, Superman was his own thing. They slowly started to integrate them here and there. Now, now that they are an interconnected universe, shouldn't Batman be the everyman? The person who has to up his game to be along the sides of the gods.
That's what he does, though.
But they never portray Batman, you never see Batman questioning. You never see Batman going, how do I exist around all these gods? The only time I've seen it come close is that Tom King story that came out about 2 years ago where Bruce and Selena are trying to tell Lois and Clark that they're engaged. And it's this great, Tom King's really good at this bouncing voices back and forth narration. And he does this great thing where you get the foibles of Batman and Superman. That's one of my favorite Batman stories ever, where Batman's just how do I exist along a god? And it's the only time I've ever seen him do that. You don't see Batman second-guessing himself, ever.
Right, because, I mean, one of the things that I can't stand is the term Bat God, but they use it all the time, especially Stan accounts that love Batman. It's he's unfailable. He's completely perfect. He'll plan everything out to the last second. He doesn't question himself. Blah blah. And it's well then, and how is that a good thing? Superman will question himself. Why doesn't Batman?
It's almost like they're afraid to make Batman more human. How often do you see Batman in the books, traditionally over the years, be Bruce? I think that's the worst thing that DC does with the character, is we don't get enough Bruce. And there's so many cool places you could go with Bruce as a character. But remember a couple of years ago when they had those DC editor notes that came out, Batman cannot be shown sitting down. Batman does not use the bathroom. Batman does not, they go out of their way to dehumanize him. And I think it's because he exists in a world of gods.
Right. I mean, okay. So, do you remember I can't remember what the name of the book was that Kevin Smith did.
Cacophony?
Was it Cacophony? Where he talks, tells
Oh,
the
Lord,
story.
he pees himself.
Yes. He's, you've eaten well, blah, blah, the line from the book. He blows the wall out. And yeah, he's telling the story to, who was he telling the story to?
Oh, I forget. It was Cacophony, but I forget who he's talking to.
And he says, that he basically peed himself from the heat of the explosion, which Kevin Smith talked to actual firemen and said that is something that happens when you're near an explosion like that. You involuntarily release some urine. And he got such flack for that, because he was showing Batman being human.
And it's also Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I know.
He has his brand is, like, for lack of a better term, toilet humor. So, I mean, like, but you're right. And I thought the same thing when I read it and I was younger. I'm like, oh man, Kevin Smith's making fun of Batman. But then, like, yeah, you really go, that's what a normal person would do. That humanizes Batman. Like, they need to do that more. Batman needs to be more. Maybe I'm wrong, John. You tell me what you think about it. You're a DC guy. Don't you think Batman should be more man and less bat?
Well, part of the problem part of the point of his character is that he's stuck between the rage and I guess the focus of protecting everybody from the fate of his parents and that psychosis compared to trying to live a normal life and the problem he has with any kind of balance. I mean, he is kind of like a Rorschach in a way, because he has trouble. He has mental problems, right? So yeah, you could say that he should be more man to give him the same kind of grounding that, say, Lois Lane gives Superman, but at the same time, the whole point of his character is that he has a problem separating himself from the mission. And the mission always comes first. And so the best writers have always made that the point of the story where, okay, well, is he Batman or is he Bruce Wayne? Is he Bruce Wayne playing Batman or is he Batman playing Bruce Wayne?
See, I would disagree with that. I would say the best writers are the ones that actually go the opposite way and dig more into what Bruce is. And he's not – I think it's so easy to go, well, Bruce is a sociopath. And just leave it as that. But I think that it trivializes what the character can be, because I don't think that character can be a lead character. Like, that's why I'll go back to Grant Morrison's take on Batman over just about anybody's. And that's why I really like what Tom King did with them, because it did make them less God, more human. Even though the Bat God thing you could screw out the Morrison stuff too, his Batman is so human in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, no, the more you show him struggle a bit, the more contrast he gives to, the literal gods around him. And that's been like, it's one of the things, like, there's a YouTube show called Death Battle, right? And when they've done Batman in the death battles, they always do them without any planning, because that's what a death battle is. It's you're thrown into a ring with somebody and, okay, fight for your life. So, too many writers fall into the trope of, well, he's Batman. Yeah. Why did he win? Because he's Batman.
It's Batman, prep time.
But right, exactly. And with prep time, yes, he's a genius. He'd have enough time. Give him enough time, he will figure a way out of literally almost everything. But that's not the way life works. So the more you show him in situations where, he's sitting there without his helicopter, and there's a shark eating his leg, the more human he seems, and I guess the more contrast that gives to the rest of the DC universe. I would like to see him in more situations like that. In fact, at some point, it would be nice, I know they never will, but it'd be nice if they just actually finally retired Bruce Wayne, because being human, he has no healing factor. There's no way any human being, no matter how top peak physical shape you're in, you're going to survive more than a couple of years with that many gunshots, knife wounds, muscle tears, and everything, and still be able to function on any level.
Well, right, but we've had this conversation many times, is that they're not characters anymore, they're properties, and many times as they've retired Bruce Wayne, they have to go back to the original property at some point to make sure they maintain everything.
And I think as long as you show him hurting and beat up, it gets the point across.
You made an interesting point about the Bruce Wayne being the mask, and like that is definitely the characterization that's in Batman the Animated Series, like throughout the whole thing. And even Kevin Conroy's talked about that, where like when he was
Bruce Timm did it wonderful, but he had years to perfect that.
Right, but I'm saying Kevin Conroy talks about when he was Batman, that was his voice, and then he raised it a little bit when he did Bruce Wayne. Like, he changed the voice for Bruce Wayne, not for Batman.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a good point, but I also understand what JD's saying. Like, they don't explore, like, yes, he's a crazy person. He's dressing like a bat and beating up criminals. Like, that's not a sane person, and they could do so much with exploring that in the character as well, I think.
I don't know do you want to read about a person with literal mental illness? Like, if we strip Batman down to what he really is, then you're dealing with a sociopath. And then you have Rorschach, Like, I don't know if I want to read that.
The Joker movies made almost $1 billion. I don't know.
Well, you could write about his struggle with dealing with this, and that's, again, some of the best stories have highlighted that.
Yeah.
So he goes to a party as Bruce Wayne, show him having flashbacks and PTSD and jumping at every shadow, reaching for a batarang every time he hears a noise that he thinks might be something else, even though it's a crowded party. So, that sort of thing.
Never going to happen.
I know. But it would be nice. But the thing is that, Batman is also kind of a balance with it. When he's done right, he's a balance with the rest of the DC characters, because it gives the other DC characters something to look at and say, well, okay, I'm in this hole. I'm probably about to die. But if a freaking human wearing a bat costume can do this hero shit, then damn well, so will I.
I think the only way, and this is, again, pure opinion, but I think the only way Batman really works, and I would love to see a story explore this thing, is if you show Bruce Wayne as a broken man, but he's someone completely different when he puts on the costume. Completely re-energized, like, ready to go out and do justice. But once he takes that costume off, not only being Batman has injured his body, but just his mind is still broken. He still never got over the death of his parents, and, he deals with that, Well,
then you're giving him a true multiple personality, almost, right?
Not necessarily. Life is about the masks we wear. And I've heard stories about pro wrestlers that are miserable, but when they go out when they hear the crowd and the lights come on, like, all of a sudden their body moves better and they walk taller. Like, there's something to that.
Right. And again, you're not humanizing Batman, you're humanizing Bruce Wayne in that situation.
I would just like to see them do more Bruce-centric stories. Like, Bruce Wayne is a billionaire who could do a lot just as a billionaire. Like, I would like to see Batman do more as and I think it was done a little bit better in the 70s when they focused a little bit more on the detective elements of the character, more so than the superhero elements of him. And I think that's easy to do. I think it's too easy for him to punch his way out of stories. Like, I would like to see them redo things so he doesn't become just the might for right, if I hit you harder, I win character.
Right. True. All right. Well, that's Batman. Real quick, moving on. Speaking of the polar opposite in DC, rumor has it actually it's kind of been confirmed. This has been everywhere. CW is developing a Superman series, based on the the actor who plays him now on Supergirl. What's the guy's name? I'm looking for it in the article. Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tolick as Lois Lane. So it'll be a Superman Lois Lane series.
Where have I heard that before? It's like Superman and Lois. Or Lois
you mean Lois and
Superman.
Clark, the New Adventures of Superman?
That's right. That's right.
But, okay, so not only that, but somebody said, but again, they did say it's going to be Tyler Hoechlin Superman series. But somebody said at the end of Infinite Crisis, Superman went off into a bubble universe. The original Superman.
Mm-hmm, that was me.
Yeah. So I'm just putting that out there.
We have another Lois and Clark who can do that, though.
Yeah, that's true. So what do you think? Like, and that's another thing. Like, does this take anything away from Supergirl if they give a Superman series?
Well,
Does this take anything away from any of the other characters if now you take one of the flagship characters and give them a series on the CW?
Well, just add to the fact that this is going to mirror somewhat the Rebirth, because the current Rebirth, because they're going to have a baby.
Johnny Kent, love that character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's going to be the article says it's going to concentrate on Jonathan Kent.
Right, because basically they went to forget the name of the wandering planet of Kryptonians, but they went there so that the baby wouldn't have superpowers when it was born. So
right.
Technically nobody's saying it, but it wouldn't rip Lois apart. So
like Homer.
Cesarean.
Yeah. No, we're not bringing Lobo into this.
Oh, okay.
That's Zarnian.
Yes. So, but this is going to be a little bit different than the Lois and Clark thing, because you're going to have a baby involved. So there's a lot more fodder for interesting plots, and I don't think it'll take away from. There already is that question of, when something really goes wrong with Arrow or Flash, why aren't they just hitting the button and getting Kara involved?
Here's my thought. Why are we assuming Supergirl's not going to end soon?
Well, Jimmy Olsen is leaving the show, so I don't think it's ready to end yet. There's been no chatter about that at all yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Until they announced it, though. I mean, this is probably going to take 2 years to get off the ground?
No, they said next season.
Yeah, next season.
So, I mean, obviously it seems like they'll do what they always do. They'll set up the threads of it in the crossover, and then, so that way they're backdooring the storyline, and then boom, next season they kick off the show. And obviously they're going to have a hole in the schedule next season because Arrow, this is the last season of Arrow.
Although they have a new Arrow show. I thought they were working on that was coming up.
You read that on We Got This Covered.
Oh.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a new Arrow show. So.
A female-led spinner works. Hollywood Reporter. I don't know. There's a couple of references to it.
Really?
With the new cast.
Huh.
So, there's other stuff too, like, oh my God, my brain, the guy who plays Adam is leaving.
Brandon Routh.
Brandon Routh and his real life wife, they're both leaving, Legends. So, I don't know. There's a lot of changes coming, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, and that's,
Phase 2.
That happens, that happens with a lot of times with stuff like this, and, actors come and go, and people get tired and don't want to do the shows anymore. But yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, A, what happens with a live action Superman, and then B, do they do a live action Batman?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It seems like bringing Batman in anywhere near the CW universe is literally verboten. Like, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it's licensing or maybe they are having the same arguments that we just had. But
I mean, you go back to season 1 of Supergirl, like, they didn't show him. You saw his boots in one scene, and you saw a shadowy outline of him in another. Like, you knew she was his cousin, and he was around, but it was almost verboten to actually, like, have him. And then boom, season 2, he's there. He shows up every couple episodes, and then now it's like, oh, okay, he's going to get his own show.
So What happened between that, though? Between Supergirl starting and now the development of the show?
It moved from NBC to CW.
No, we had a death of a film property.
Did?
Yeah, Justice League.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's dead, and we do have the Batman coming out. Interesting.
Right. So the Batman's coming out, so that license, and besides, they wouldn't do that anytime soon, considering they just started Batwoman up, and according to your notes, that they just extended it from 13 episodes to a full 22 for this season.
Yeah, I was about to get to that. I was about to transition to that story. Thanks. Yeah, I was going to say, and that's what I'm wondering too. So, of course, yes, the other news that came out is they extended Batgirl's order to a full season for the first season. As a writer, do you think they had planned a half a season, now all of a sudden, boom, they've got to extend it out? And is it going to feel like two different halves of a season? Or do you think they kind of plan it for 22, but figure out how can we cut this short if we don't get a full extension?
They planned for 22 and cut it short.
Do you think so? Because the current plot does not feel like it could have lasted 22.
But I mean, that's
unless they can do the whole introduce the real big bad halfway through the season.
No, but you can also like plant seeds for what's coming next, and like you don't know their seeds until they spring later up. Like, so if it ends at 13, it looks like it's over. If it doesn't, then you've already got some traces you can go with and make it look like you know what you were doing because you did.
Yeah, could be. I think you can milk the main villain for a while.
I agree.
Have you watched it all?
No, but I know you can milk a main villain if you have to.
Well, I'll tell you, the main villain. Well, yeah, the main villain for Batwoman is doing really well. I mean, the actress they got for it is just freaking amazing, and I'm going to milk this for as long as I can while I look up at IMDb to get her name because she's amazing. And it's Rachel Scarston. So
yes, but I do feel like
she's really good.
See, I don't want to give any spoilers to JD.
I'm fine.
Oh, you're fine. Okay, I felt like they could have got someone who looked a little more like Ruby Rose.
What?
If you're gonna do,
I'm fine. Go ahead.
If you're going to do that, they're sisters.
Damn it!
You should look a little more alike.
No. I mean, considering the storyline and what possibly could have been done to her, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's okay.
Yeah. She's a good actress, but I don't. When I look at the two of them, I'm like, I don't buy that they're sisters. It'd be like people saying we look like brothers, John. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, but what TV show ever got any kind of familial ties? Done very well with casting. I mean, come on. I mean, it's almost impossible. So
Friends did a good job.
Yeah, I believe that David Schwimmer and Courtney Cox are brother and sister.
I don't know. All right, but again, I mean, come on. It's a CW show. And look, and I will also argue that if you can get an actress who can act versus worrying about somebody who looks like Ruby Rose, get the actress who can act. And she freaking act. I mean, she makes even if they have a bad line, she makes it sound good. I'm actually really impressed so far. So. All right. It's a series worth watching.
All right. So speaking of Batwoman and CW, do we want to get into this? Because we're running kind of long. We haven't an interview yet. Or do we want to save this topic for next week?
Let's save this for next week because John and I clearly didn't want to do this topic this week.
No?
Well, no, we just talked about so much other stuff. Like, it wasn't like we had our gears reared up to debate this topic,
Yes. Yeah. This is true. I will give you that. All right, boys and girls. So then we won't spoil. We got something we're going to talk about next week. It's something that's kind of been on my mind, and I'm fishing for time so I can bring up my notes.
Puppy murder.
Puppy. Oh yeah, sure. That's what
Yes.
we're going to talk about.
No, not puppy murder. Kitten murder, because my cat's been getting on my nerves. Anyway.
Hey, some of my best friends are kittens.
Anyway, we're going to end this week, boys and girls, with another interview, another great interview we got from New York Comic Con. This week we've got Chris Jaymes. He is an actor, writer, producer, and he currently has a book out called Sons of Chaos, which is from Penguin Random House and IDW put it out together. Basically, it is the story of the Ottoman Empire and their rule over the Greeks, and basically the what's the word I'm looking for? Revolution. So it was an interesting story. I think he was kind of, what would you say, John? I think he was kind of going for the 300 feel with it.
300 feel? Sure. Yeah, I'll go with that. I didn't see many people with oiled up bodies, but
but it's, that kind of epic, old world, grand kind of, story. So John and I got to talk to him at New York Comic Con on the floor. Outside of the IDW booth. That's our only complaint is, unlike Dark Horse, they didn't have a place for us to sit down and talk.
They didn't have a place for him, for the talent. They can do whatever they want to us as long as we give an interview. So
yeah, well, that's true. So,
and I mean anything, people contact us at superspeak.com.
There you go, plug away. So that being said, we had a great little conversation, and without much more set up, here we go. Here is Chris Jaymes.
All right, boys and girls, we are still on the floor at New York Comic Con.
As you can hear.
We are here with actor, writer, director, producer.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Chris Jaymes, how are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks. Sorry about that list. You could just pick one thing. It's all.
Well, that was my first question. You've done so much in the entertainment industry. What made you decide to take the foray into graphic novels?
It was just the only thing you hadn't done yet, right?
Yeah, like self-punishment, torment, and yeah, you gotta keep expanding. I don't know, for some reason I think I have this psychological equation that is like, well, I've done that, what is that? And I'm afraid that it might not ever end. Just be learning the new thing, understand it, and then die one day. I'm not sure what else there is to do. Yeah. So I guess that's all to say. Right.
Well, that's healthy, though. Look, keep learning, keep, getting new experiences.
Yeah.
Well, graphic novel is not really an experience, more of torture, but hey.
No, but that's true. I mean, my father was the same way. He always wanted to learn new things.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to keep your mind sharp.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah, I think it's a curiosity or the wanting to comprehend stuff that keeps me driving and having a sense of existing. If I slow down too much and just kind of sit in the sort of whatever the rhythm of the space is that isn't sort of moving forward in some way, I start to totally doubt my entire existence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, not that that's healthy, but it's true.
So the name of the book is Sons of Chaos.
Yeah.
What can you tell the listeners about the book?
It's a real, not good for children. It's a real healthy, and it's like trying to educate kids on orgies and beheadings and people being shot while giving birth.
You'll prepare for the zombie apocalypse.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Just trying to follow suit of our new administration to try to keep on par with what our government is promoting.
Okay.
And since apparently we are close to civil war, this book makes a lot of sense because of the revolution.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same. Simulating the fall of the Ottoman Empire or the fall of the White House. I don't know what the difference is.
I don't think there's much at this point.
There go with Rome.
Yeah. It's when I was really little, I not little, I mean little compared to 46.
Right.
I kind of got obsessed. One time I was traveling in Paris for 6 weeks. I was just staying there, and I got really obsessed with Victor Hugo. And so I read Les Miserables, and I looked at where he lived. And so that was already in my mind from my youth. And then coming upon this story, which is 200 years old next year, this revolution. So 50 years after the French Revolution, I saw this and started to see how interesting and layered it was, and how much it actually affected our current world that we don't really know about, and stimulated what Western Europe is today, and sort of defined the superpowers to be what they are now. And you could start at the fall of the Ottoman Empire, which leads you up to World War I. And so it just depends how much you care to spend the time understanding it all. So I started understanding the layers of this story, and it was a revolution that was like 200 years ago, and all those places we love to stand in Greece and think, wow, it's so pretty. Like there were children and mothers being, beheaded and bloodshed across the entire country just a minute ago. And now it's like a vacation spot. And
basically look at The Patriot.
Right.
The movie.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And so I think, to sum up the book, it's like a little bit more grimy version of maybe what Les Miserables was to the French Revolution, but this is to the Greek Revolution, which happened 50 years later. And it's a bunch of crazy character stories that are counterpointing one another. And I think the lead character, when I first found him in history, reminded me of the real life Joker, the Ali Pasha character. What he does and how he functioned was so insane. And the more I learned about him, that's sort of what kind of convinced me, okay, tell this story.
That's what I was about to ask. So, like, how much of the story revealed itself to you while you were doing the research?
Well, after enough, mental punishment, and it's not a war that there's tons of resources about.
Right.
So when you get through the 20 books in English, you're left kind of going, well, what it really happened? Because all of the books have a bias. And so you get a different version of what really happened in different ways. And so trying to decipher what it really was, it wasn't necessarily like the story went, wow, here you are. It was more like, where the fuck are you?
History's written by the victors, basically.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to try to uncover what might have really happened took a lot of time. And then I had all of this mass amounts of information, but the revolution went on for 10 years. So I had to pick what story to tell. And this one made sense to me, mostly because I really loved the sort of nemesis character. And this led us into the stimulation of the beginning of the revolution. And in my hypothetical opinion, what made this revolution possible.
Cool.
Yeah. It's hard not to keep that short without opening up these massively long things that very few humans might care to hear.
Right.
It's a plot. It's a plot. So, part of writing historical fiction is trying to write in a way that you're conveying what life was really like back then.
Sure.
And sometimes it's very hard to get the period exactly right because, again, with the research, right?
Yeah.
Okay, did they have toilets?
Right.
How was silversmithing a thing at the time? Was this,
right.
It's trying to figure all that. So how'd you, was that just a whole bunch of research? How did you,
a whole bunch
go
of
about
research,
setting the period?
Well, mostly paintings and sketches. I found every painting and sketches and drawings of weaponry and battles that I could find. And there happened to be, because this kind of happened around the Romantic period, there is actually a lot of paintings and artwork done about this war. Whether they're accurate or not is hard to know. So I just got bats. I built a couple books. I built about 2,000 pages worth of historic stuff and a timeline, about 1,000 pages of each character, and then about 200 pages of artwork from the period. So that's how I sort of constructed the concept of the space and the look and the feel. But yeah, the rest you kind of got to fill in the blanks based on kind of your own hypothesis.
How long did all that take you? It's because that's
time.
A lot of.
The research went on for over a year. The research went on. By the time I had researched, made the books, try to understood what really happened, and came up with the outline of the story I wanted to tell, was about 2.5 years. It wasn't the only thing I was doing in my life.
Right.
Yeah, but it was a lot.
So having also an background in entertainment, do you have a vision of this going anywhere else, like a series, a movie? Anything like that?
He wants to know who you want to play your main character.
Yeah. So yes, I think now you can't write anything without the hope of it becoming something.
Right.
Yeah.
And the bonus is the book will live. The book will live forever.
Right.
As long as we don't burn them all. But who knows? I didn't know our world would be like it is now.
Orwell's taking over.
Right. Yeah, totally. So, ironically, when I got into this, it's like this book will never be dated. It will always kind of be relevant.
Right.
But if I make a movie about this right now, in 20 years, this is going to look old, like the Titanic looks now. You see the big boat, and when I saw that in the theater, it looked amazing, and now it looks like a jokey little, tricky, like it's like a tick, 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 tick. You can see it stutter as it moves.
Yep.
So, the cool part is the book will live and have a life, and it can stay the same forever. Though, of course, I've already written screenplay for a possible movie, and I've written a TV pilot for the possible television version. So it all exists, and I'm taking meetings about that now. Will it happen? Who knows? They make a lot of things now, but I think this one is so specific that it's not a cheap one to make, and so you got to really want to make it.
Right.
Yeah.
How much CGI was in there? The 1700s. I mean,
yeah, right. Yeah, it's and it's funny because you start to think, well, what would be the best platform for this? Do you try to do a hybrid animation, which is really what most CGI is now? It's kind of this hybrid thing. Sometimes you're never out of a stage, which more and more I think becomes easier, as opposed to using half digital and half mechanical effects where you have to build huge spaces, though I would much rather do that. I would much rather shoot this like 1917 has been shot, and if you don't know about it, it looks amazing. It's a lot of these really long single shots, no cuts, being within the war sequences, running through trenches, and that I would obviously rather make it like that. And that's easy, right? Sam Mendes and those guys probably didn't spend that much on 1917.
You find a bunch of reenactors, basically. They'll tell you exactly how each battle went.
Yeah, totally. So no, but I think obviously that's kind of the dream. You want to see it come to life and exist. I think this medium is amazing, but trying to convince people to read anything is a challenge, and then try to convince them to read what looks like a really daunting 200-page huge book.
Yeah.
But the bonus that I think the most validating thing is that when people actually read it, they have told me that it moves quickly and you kind of get through it. And I think just knowing somebody actually sits and gets through it is probably the most fun part of the whole thing.
Well, it's always a good sign when somebody reads your book and said it just went easy. You know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have my notes in front of me. Who was the artist on the book?
Ale Aragon.
Okay.
And he's got a book out now called Resonant with that just is doing pretty good. And he's done a lot of things. He's amazing, but he lives in Argentina.
Okay.
And so getting him here is a bitch.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Now,
Yeah.
how'd you find him?
So a guy that I knew who had a smaller comics making company introduced me to a bunch of artists and to look at, and then started picking and meeting, and then Ale ended up working out, and thankfully, because it's really hard to get someone to stay working that long on one thing. And and they get pulled in so many directions. We started with one person for a minute who ended up taking a job and having to leave after we had worked like 3 or 5 months with them.
And we hear that all the time, too. Like, why is your third book one artist where your first two were the other one? It's, well, they got, they went and started working for Marvel. Oh, okay. Well, you can't fall for that. But,
totally. Yeah. No, it happens.
Yeah. So how long before we see this stuff come out? I mean, when do we start seeing others? Is there a timeline for this?
You mean other parts of Sons of Chaos?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, as soon as I know, I'll let you know. I can say that I have some amazing, wonderful companies that I've had meetings and am meeting with, that any one of them would be a blessing. And they're all people that make the movies that you like. So I'm hopeful, but you never know. Sometimes movies take 10 years to get made, and sometimes they fall together somehow quicker.
Was there any discussion of making it like a monthly book, as opposed to a graphic
Sure.
novel when you first approached the project?
Yeah, initially, and then actually after talking to Ale, he got really like passionately saying, "This story is so epic, and if you break it up into small bits, it's gonna feel it's not gonna carry as well." And so he really convinced us to do the thing that is the least intelligent economically, to
Right.
make it one big massive book. But as much as I think it would be easier for people to access if it was a bunch of small issues, there is something when you have the book in front of you. It's so massive and it feels so immersive because the pages, when you open the book, it's almost 3 feet wide.
Yes.
So you really get a sense of being in it. And I think there's no little version of a book that feels like that, you know?
So, go ahead.
Yeah.
So after this process, do you think you'd do this kind of thing again?
Sure. Yeah, I'm already talking about a couple of next books. So yeah, I would do it again. I would do it specifically different, but yeah. But I had to learn, and the learning. Anytime you're learning a new thing, you have to really, go through the arduousness of starting from complete naivety and asking all the wrong questions. Yeah.
So along those lines, how did it feel entering into this world? How were the people that you worked with like?
I really despise most all of them.
Could you name them, please?
Yes. We'll start here. No, I think it's like this. When you come into any industry, nobody gives a shit about you, and and many people try to come into all of the levels of media because it's appealing, and you're out from the outside. It's like, yeah, I want to do that. So you're so accustomed, I think, from every level of it, of people coming in and saying, oh, I want to be in this. Oh, can you give me advice and do this? That you kind of write them off until they prove themselves innocent. And so you start off guilty and a complete useless, loser that they don't give a shit about until you prove that you're okay and that you're thoughtful and that you can participate, you can bring value. So I think coming into this, it's almost like, especially being a guy that's made movies before, you are seen a little bit as like they're cynical or skeptical about you. They think you're just trying to swoop in maybe and get a movie made and you take everything and leave them behind. Because I think a lot of people have tried to do that in the past decade. Yeah. And so, they're not stupid. Like the people of this industry are meticulously thoughtful and understand the layers of it, and it's a grind, and it's not like you're making the money you would make in a TV platform or a movie platform. Right. So they're doing it because they want to be doing it. So to let you in is not something that they're looking forward to doing.
Right.
So it's taken a bit of time for me to assimilate relationships since this started 6 months ago, but now I feel it's starting to shift, and people like bringing me in and getting invited to do things with them. So it's it's like anything. You got to prove that you're not just another opportunistic, useless human.
You got to gain their respect and trust. And
totally.
Once that's done,
then you're okay.
Yeah.
As long, but you can ruin it again and again. But most people, if you're not an awful human, eventually will take you in.
Yeah.
Do you have any other projects coming out that you can talk about?
Sure. Well, I've got a project that's pretty far along in development that I'm considering doing a book of. I already actually had written a screenplay of it, and getting further into this industry made me think, wow, this is a good place for the book. And it's basically a true story that I got the rights to about a boy who was born with a heart defect in the mid-'80s and not supposed to survive. And he did survive, and by the time he was 3, he had his third open heart surgery, at which point in time, he had a full right hemisphere stroke and went paralyzed on his left side and was not supposed to survive. Everybody ruled him out, but his mom was really relentless in that sort of Sandra Bullock character way, and she kept pushing and nothing was working, and then she realized that he got stimulated by animals. And so she started bringing him around, and long story short, he ended up having a full recovery that was stimulated by his relationship with the dolphin. And so it's kind of like a little bit like E.T., but based on a true story, and instead of a strange-looking potato, like it's a dolphin.
That reminds me, aren't you involved with a group that does that?
Yeah. So after I acquired the story and wrote it, I was there for so long that the organization that the parents of this kid started, I sort of became a part of their family, and now I help come up with solutions, and so what I'm now working towards with this place called Island Dolphin Care. So what we do there is we take we have 8 dolphins right now that we have acquired from swim programs. Mm-hmm. So we remove them from being exploited, and we give their life purpose without having a bunch of people riding on them by creating a therapy program for children with disabilities and special needs and the dolphins. Nice. So try to find purpose in their life, because you can't release, this is what people don't understand, is you can't just release dolphins and whales into the ocean unless you want to kill them.
Right.
Most of the animals in captivity now have never lived in the ocean. So they have to learn how to be a dolphin in the ocean or learn how to be a whale in the ocean, which is very difficult to do.
Right.
And so I've been working at possible solutions on how we can create more than sanctuaries, but sort of like ocean aquariums, where we work to rebuild the habitat of the ocean, and we start to train animals how to live in it. So you know, because as more and more of the banning happens on all the cetaceans in captivity, there's going to need to be a place for them to go.
Yes.
And so nobody's doing that. So that's what I've been working towards with actually with one of the head of Baltimore Aquarium, the National Aquarium, and a few other people, and we're working towards finding solutions.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's the other book story.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we won't take too much more of your time.
No, it's fun to hang out.
So we'll hit you with the big questions now.
Uh-oh, here we go. Yeah. Get it.
Yeah, so there's 2 questions that we normally wrap up with. The first is, we normally sign the podcast off by saying, don't let your cape get caught in the door. And
say it again?
Don't let your cape get caught in the door.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Which started off as a joke, but really has come to mean, don't let your shortcomings or obstacles get in your way of your goals.
Okay.
So what's something that you've overcome in your life to achieve a goal?
Shit. I mean, how long do you have? It's still happening. I don't think it changes. I think, each moment in time you have a different perspective and a different equation as you evolve. I spent the majority of my life trying to overcome the equations of thinking I'm enough. You know, like as a kid, it was always like, to be enough, to be loved or wanted. You have to do these amazing things, and so then people will like you. Mm-hmm. And probably that's why I've done so many different things. It's because that's the equation I started with. So I think the answer is very it sounds more simple than it is. But what I did was I self-obsessed so much, and I judged myself so much that I was creating ongoing suffering, as opposed to just taking action and working towards the things you want to do.
Right.
And really, the only time you can suffer and slow down your productivity is when you're obsessing about yourself too much. So if you can stop making it about you and make it about what you're bringing to others, and find ways to justify that what I'm doing has purpose for others, all of a sudden you trick yourself into thinking you might be a little bit better person. And then you start doing these things, in a selfless manner to some degree, and it's the most selfish thing because it feeds you so much back. The more that you're good to humans and you try to help them see and live better, all of a sudden people like you more, and you don't feel like such an asshole some days. So I think that's really the best thing I can say is, don't think about it too much. Find ways to see purpose in the thing you do and how it can help other people. And then all of a sudden you get a little bit lighter. And the biggest trick to that is learning how to communicate with yourself better.
Okay. And then, of course, the question we wrap up on, and you've kind of hit on it, I think, in that answer is, how do you measure success?
How much self-torture do you live in? I think that's such a layered thing, because we know all the cliches and how the external success and money is blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Of course we know that that's not it, but that helps. And the more that you do achieve things that you strive for, you get to a point where you either go, okay, that's done. What the fuck? Why? Who cares? Why? And now what? Now what am I going to do? Because that's done. Or you go, wow, I did this thing pretty well and people seem to like it. This is great. Now I can move on and decide what to do next. So it's a tough one, but I think for me, I would probably say the success factor is I find that if you're looking at people that you like and respect and they're looking at you as someone they would like to be collaborating with, that's the best sign of success. The people you respect want to work with you, then you've got proof that you have done something well. It doesn't always mean that you have to be the best person at the thing, but you also got to be likable and be stimulating and be enjoyable to be around. So sometimes you'll take somebody that's way less skilled because they make your day feel better. So that's a whole nother tangent, but that's my point. You get what I'm saying.
Cool. All right. And then, okay, so real quick, where can people find Sons of Chaos and where can people find you online?
Well, Sons of Chaos, there's, every platform, there's sonsofchaos.com. There's, the Facebook page is facebook.com/Sons1821. The Instagram is Sons of Chaos Official. My website has links to everything that I do, and that's just chrisjaymes.com, which is JAYMES. And there's Facebook with me, all the same, anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your time.
No, thanks for hanging out, man. Good to meet.
All right. John, you were on fire in that interview.
I don't know.
No, literally you were. I had to pat you out a couple times. I don't know why you kept catching on fire like that. Spontaneous combustion.
I thought you were just feeling them up.
Dave, bad touch, Dave. Yamate, bad touch.
Yes. Bad touch indeed. Cool. So you guys have anything you want to add? Any recommendations before we call it a week?
Nope. Check out Batwoman. It's worth watching. So far it's been really on point. I'm pretty happy with it.
If you enjoy my musings, check out me and my good friend Regular Scott from Take a Knee from Oliver's DC on the Showdown Pro podcast. If you like wrestling.
Awesome.
Cool. Plug. I will recommend that everyone goes to superheroespeak.com. Check out all the great content that we've been putting up lately, and consistently, guys. Every day for the last 3 weeks, we've putting up 2-3 articles. So there's a lot to check out there now. And if you haven't done so yet, I think you guys should go check out Living with Yourself. It is the new Paul Rudd show on Netflix. And it's not what you expect, but it's still pretty damn good. So yeah, I think I recommend people go check that out. So on that note, boys and girls, as always, thanks for listening and don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.